Okay.
Get out the way.
You're on.
Cool. Alright. So yeah, that's why a lot of people used to have issues looking from the back, so it was just to help out. So I'm going to be tying a white bugger tonight. Not many people fish white woolly buggers and those sorts of things, but they love to fish a white death. White bugger has worked for us consistently in every dam. When things get really tough and you need to slow down fishing, really just get a bit more technical, not just stripping, big flies and carrying on. White bugger often works for you. Fishing it very slow, very deep. This has got a brass bead on the front. A lot of the buggers and things that I have been tying have been tungsten. I've moved away from tungsten for buggers back onto the brass beads. I find them to be much more effective that way. They just stay static in the water a lot longer, so they don't get bogged down in the muck. We fished the Kloofsig competition now last weekend, Dan and myself, and we thought we were going to smash it. It was going to be nice and easy. It was unbelievably difficult fishing, and the fish only wanted the biggest flies you could put on your line. They wanted none of the technical small stuff, none of the usual competition style fishing. Biggest fly you could find, and this is basically the biggest fly I've got. And changed over to the white bugger, and Dan and I got so many fish on the white bugger that we ended up winning the comp, but we blanked in the first session. We were nowhere. So it works really well. It's a very nice, easy to tie pattern. So what you generally start off with is just take one of the, I think this is probably turkey marabou. Yeah, so you just take one plume, and that's generally the thickness of the tail. You don't want it to be too thin. This is a fly that works well for the stockfish, and Dan also got a 1.7 kilo fish on it, so it works well for the older fish that have been around for a while. You just want to try and measure the tail so it's roughly the length of the hook shank, the usual style of the bugger. Get your thread on, work a little bit further back, because you're going to put a little bit of lead wire in the front here.
What size hook did you use, Gary?
This is a size 10 with a 3mm brass gold bead. Yeah, it's a long shank, so it's a streamer hook. Streamer and leeches. So once you get your length sort of right, the thing that's nice is you can make the tail a bit longer, and you can always pinch it down if fish are biting short or something like that. You just want to get that on there. And generally work your fly back up until you above the barb. If you go a little bit too far back, your tail fiber will start to wrap. Not like that. And you'll have issues when you're casting the fly. Just like that. I don't put any flash into it. We keep it absolutely plain. The thing that works really nicely as well is when you're fishing it. I fished this fly in KZN in Moy River about 3 weekends ago. And instead of fishing the usual white death, the dam was really dirty. We fished the white death for a while. Didn't pick up any fish. We changed over to something slightly bigger but also white. Then we started really smashing the fish in the evening. I mean, we got a lot of fish. Biggest fish was 56 centimeters. And it was all on this white bugger. It really is an effective fly. So next up, take a little bit of this lead wire. This one feels a little bit thicker. I think it's about 0.20. Anything 0.1 or 0.20 is fine. All you're going to do is you're just going to fill up this gap here a little bit, because then you'll get uniformity with the body when you do the dubbing. So I'll generally do probably about 10 wraps of this. Can be a little bit heavy, but the tungsten bead at the front is usually what actually pulls the fly down.
Is that going to swim upside down?
No, it swims right way up. Thing is, if you're not doing the comp style as well, if you put a little loop knot onto this, it's called a Rapala knot. So you've got a loop so the fly swims freely. You get a lot more action, a lot more movement in the fly. It works particularly well. So, but you'll see if you had to just put the lead underneath, then it would keel properly. And if you just put it on the top, it would probably flip it over. But just with the lead like that, it'll always swim straight up, because this tail here sits above the bend, which is basically your keel. So it'll always keep it up for you.
Do you always have the tail the length of the shank?
Yeah, the length of the shank and slightly longer. depending on if there's a lot of stockies, they generally engulf a fly. So the tail can be quite long, you can play around. But if fish start eating short, then all you do is you'll see on this one, that was originally tied with a long tail, and fish were eating it, and you're getting a lot of hits, but nothing was hooking up. So at the comp, I just pinched it off completely, and then we started hooking up on fish. They were eating the fly quite short.
Did you cut the tail there? It's pretty-
No. So you can see,
Just finished it.
just as you pinch it there, it'll make a little tapered section there. Yeah. Right, then what I generally do is I'll just wrap over the lead like that, just to catch it so that it doesn't unravel when you wind on. Just do a couple of turns like that, and it just keeps it together so it doesn't pull apart when you're trying to actually do your dubbing. You take a little bit of gold rib, and just tie that into the tail here. So basically what this gold rib we're going to do is we're going to catch the hackle when we tie it in. So you can tie a woolly bugger hackle in at the back and wrap it forward, but the problem with that is you're generally going to be tying it in from the stem side. So if you look at a hackle feather, so you've got longer fibers and it gets to thinner fibers in the front. So if you're tying it in there, you're going to have all the long fibers at the back here, and it's going to taper thin towards the front. It just doesn't give it the same profile, and doesn't push the same amount of water. So what we'll do is we'll tie this feather in over here with the longer fibers, wrap it backwards towards the tail, and then you counter rib it with this to keep it in place. It also aids the durability of the fly, so it makes the fly last a lot longer. It doesn't get torn to pieces as quickly. I mean, this fly over here it caught about 7 fish, and it still can go on, I mean, until the hook gets blunt basically. You can pass it around if people want to have a look at it. Dub that we use for the body here is this UV ice dub. I don't know if you can see it there. I'll just bring it there.
It's almost the identical materials you use for salty butter.
Yeah,
Without the hackle.
it's very similar.
Just so they can see where you've tied in.
And you spin it around. Can you see it there? Yeah. So I always tie it down lower to the front that I can see it, so then I catch the feather on this front point here. It makes it a bit easier. You make sure that when you clip it off there, then you don't have a tag piece that goes off the other end. The other side that's nice about this is this fly can also look very much like a baitfish. You've got the translucency. If you strip it fast in the evenings as well, strip it fast in some of the lakes where there's a lot of baitfish, you also pick up the fish from that. So it's just one of those all-round flies. It works really well. And I've fished these flies in the salt. You know, when you fish in the harbour and that sort of thing, it works very well on those little Russell snapper and perch and those sorts of things. So
Well, the salty bugger itself.
it's basically a
It
salty
must be-
bugger.
It must be the go-to fly for almost all salt.
Yeah. So now all I've done is just dubbed on a little bit of this UV ice dub. You don't need to make it too thick. You know, you're going to brush out quite a lot of this later as well. So it gives a nice body to the fly. Doesn't look too sparse. The thing that's nice as well is this goes translucent in the water. So you see this rib stands out quite nicely, and you'll get a bit of a darker head there with the letters. So you get like a two-tone pattern. And it really is a lot of fun. So just try and keep a uniform body all the way through to the head here. And when you get right to the head, just take a little bit of orange dubbing. So orange is a really nice dubbing for stocked fish. You know, recently stocked fish, they trigger in on the orange. But especially if the water's a little bit dirty, then orange always works very well. Just aids, I think, visibility. Just put on a little bit of dubbing there, and just dub just a collar here around the head with the orange. And if you've got a UV torch and those sorts of things, if you shine UV on this, it really stands out quite significantly. So that's it. I mean, nice and simple. Grab one of these feathers quickly. So what you do is you take off some of the fluffier fiber, so this area here. You can strip that off. Also get to a slightly thinner stem. And then what I always do is I wrap clockwise around it, so I'm wrapping away from my body. So I'll always then pull off the one side here, just so that there's not too much feather on the fly. You know, you keep it a little bit sparse. This is more just to push water and give the fly a little bit more body and profile, but you don't want to overdo it. So now what you want to do is you're going to tie it in like that so that the feather, if you're wrapping away from you, the feather must face towards you. If you're wrapping towards you, because some people tie the other way around, then just tie it in like that. Because then it's going to wrap the feathers towards you. It's not going to get caught under the stem. So just tie that in over here. Don't tie it in too tight. Don't put too much pressure on it if you've got a very strong thread, because often you'll cut through the stem. And what you want to do then is don't cut that off yet, because if it does break, it gives you a chance to tie in again. Otherwise, you've got a bit of a problem. So what I always do is I'll start off with 2 turns on the head here, just for a little bit extra body, because then it gives a nice push. And then wrap in reasonably wide turns towards the back, because you don't want to overdo this hackle. And then you see, you just catch it there with this rib, and then it stays. I think that's nice then, is you actually try and catch over each one. Try to do it in sort of equal turns. I don't wiggle it. I've got quality fibers, there's plenty. Oh, you're on YouTube, Mariki. Just go all the way through to the head here. And catch it at the head. And if you've got some super glue, once you tie off here, put a little drop of super glue if you're worried about it coming undone. I've been using this nano silk thread for quite a while now, and I haven't used super glue or head cement or anything for ages, because the knot just it seats the knot into the fly, so you generally don't have your thread cut off. All you do is you just whip finish the head off after that. Again, whip finish before you cut anything and do all the rest. Just wiggle the wire off, and then trim off this little stem. Be careful not to trim off all of your fibre, and then you trim off your thread. And then if you've got a little brush, this is just a little wire brush, what you do is you can be quite aggressive with it once it's in there. Try and get some of this out. And you see I've left this piece here whilst I'm brushing. See this little tag here that you tied off with a wire. So brush it first with that there, because when you're brushing sometimes you can pull it out, and then you'll lose a little bit of your hackle when you've been going through. Come back in here and trim off that excess. And you've got it there, and then what I always like to do is try and scruff it up. So you literally just put your fingers over it and scruff up these fibres, because if the fibres are a little bit too stiff, then when you're casting the fly, it spins your leader quite severely. But if you break it down like this and you get the fibres a little bit softer, it doesn't actually spin your leader at all. So it'll save you a little bit, because often if your leader's quite twisted, when you get a take, your leader's already twisted up and there's no stretch in your line anymore. So often if you're fishing a bugger that's got quite a stiff hackle and you get a take and you get broken off, it's often because your line's actually so twisted that there is absolutely no stretch at all. So as the fish eats it, its immediate tension just snaps off. So just bear that in mind. And that's the end of the fly.
See that?
Nice and
Got the
easy.
hot spot down at the bottom.
Yeah, so you can play around with the hotspot. I don't know where the fly is. I think the other fly's got a hotspot orange one on the bum and a chartreuse head. And this one I've just put the orange on the head here. But you can play around with it. I mean, these things, orange and white always work well together. Chartreuse and black work well together. But it's nice to just play around, throw a couple of hotspots in there. If one of them aren't working, you can just pull it out, test it. So,
that UV works well. Works out. Roger's actually got a fly that he sounds like a UV white dev type of thing.
yeah.
Which Roger calls it the UV special. And it works very well in the early morning when there's a lot of mist on the water. That fly comes alive. It looks like a UV light under the water. It's quite not heated. It's a fish like it.
Okay.
They'll get about 20 fish on it.
Oh, really?
Otherwise they're not interested. They like it.
Okay. Is it just with this material? Or is it with marabou as well?
Use marabou tail, the shorter tail. I use the fibres, the UV fibres.
Oh yeah.
So it's more like a streamer type. So it's
Okay.
a bit like a bait fish and a bit like a streamer.
So is it the UV flash?
Yeah.
The thin UV flash. Okay. I might have to give that a test.
Well,
I'll do that.
Well, you're the next.
Because I went.
when I was fishing Mill Stream about 2-3 years ago,
Yeah.
misty morning on Coleridge, and I was out in the middle there, and 8 casts, 8 fish.
Sure.
Everyone on the bank was like, not fly easy, not fly easy.
It's like
That's risky.
doesn't matter. No one will have it.
Literally, 8 casts, 8 fish.
Sure. I fished I've got a syndicate water in Moy River. So when we were down there, this little fly made a huge difference. I ended up, I think I got 32 fish over the 2 days. And second place at about 26. I got about 10 on this white bugger on the last
You
day.
put on your black woolly bugger and you caught the rest.
Like a roll on a black woolly bugger. I haven't fished one of those things in ages. Minky is not working anymore.
Or any less.
No, not anymore.